Welcome to Let's Be Honest. I'm Liana and I'm a licensed mental health counselor. I'm the assistant director of Gooding Wellness Group, and I'm on a mission to answer your real and honest questions, unfiltered, while also giving you the real and honest opinions of a mental health clinician on pop culture and trending topics. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Let's Be Honest podcast. I'm Liana Ross. I'm a licensed therapist and your host. Today, we're going to be answering 2 listener questions, and this is geared mainly towards moms, expecting moms, mamas-to-be, partners even. And so I thought who to better join me on this than Sowania Germain. She's a licensed mental health counselor, and she provides therapy for mamas-to-be, transitioning back to work and readjusting to life post-baby. Welcome, Sowania.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me today.
Of course. Let's get into it. So I felt like I picked 2 questions that were really good and that I felt like was right up your alley. So we're just going to get right into it, and that's it. Yeah. So the first question I got was, how do you balance work after coming back from maternity leave?
That is a great question. So most important thing is as a mom, as a new mom, is to give yourself grace. I think as women, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to be perfect, especially after, post baby and going back to the workplace. I'm sure some moms feel the pressure to perform as well or not look a certain way to the employer if they're going back part-time or full-time or not. Mothers, that's one thing is the pressure piece. So for instance, I would suggest planning out a lot prior to going back to work. The biggest thing, I remember when I had my son during COVID, June 2020, and I went back 4 months, September 2020. I made sure a week in advance that he was already in the daycare, and I got all the cries out for his first time dropping at a daycare, during still a pandemic where everyone was wearing masks, that I just remember crying and feeling overwhelmed, whether it's a pandemic or not, it is a transition and it's very hard. So I would definitely, the first thing I would suggest is planning out whether it's daycare you choose or au pair or mother's helper, making, if you choose that, making sure they're in the home a week prior to the date that you start. And so one of the biggest things to consider also is, are you nursing? If you're nursing and you're going back to work, that means we have to plan with our employer, your schedule, and then making sure that you're getting the appropriate time to, per the law, right? Federal laws that we have to be able to pump, while we're at work. So planning that out, making sure that we have all the things prepped for going back to work. And then, and then also be on the same page with your partner if you do have a partner as well, because, a lot of the load does fall typically, on moms, that's what research shows. So making sure that you're on the same page with your partner is very, very important. So those are the 2 things.
I like that. And I like the fact that you pointed out not even just preparing for the physical stuff of like daycare and au pair or whomever you have or breastfeeding, but also the mental side of it, right? Like I could imagine instead of, let's say the day comes, you're going back to work and it's like all the emotions, which is bound to come anyway. But like how do you prep yourself, I guess, mentally for that process a week prior? Like, what do you suggest for some people do?
Well, I suggest definitely having a support, like a village, that of moms or other friends, someone that could check in on you to make sure that you're okay, or a therapist, So that's when I usually recommend seeing a provider. And, if you don't have that, ability to have an outside provider to process that transition, because it is difficult, journaling your feelings out, gaining in some grounding techniques, tapping, emotional freedom technique is a technique I love, a grounding technique like that, or, mindfulness exercises like meditation, diaphragmatic breathing really, before you're going back to work, engaging with yourself and trying to do that maybe, leading up to it 15 minutes a day, like really grounding yourself as you're transitioning back to going back to work, spiritually, whatever your beliefs may be, if you have a higher power or not. But I really stress like really grounding yourself as you prepare yourself emotionally getting back. And what is coming up for you as those emotions for you as a mom, not ignoring that, really taking the time to really sit with yourself with those feelings. Is it guilt that's coming up? Is it that goes into that, right? Is it guilt that's coming up for you? Is it expectations? Did you not expect to go back to work so soon? So and also there's cultural pieces to that as well. So with going back to work, some people have the ability or the leisure to be able to stay home versus not, or even some others just want to work. They just love to work and balance it both, and that's okay. So really, sitting there and grounding yourself, I think is really important, and really look at your values as a new mom, right? And a lot of that is centered around our identity, our new identity as a mom. I know that's hard to hear for some moms, but we're never going to go back to the person we were before. Now we're moving forward to the new version of ourselves. So that would be my biggest suggestion.
I like that you point that out of like, this is a new chapter. And it's like, I could imagine almost like a grieving process of what the old life looked like. And I'm curious from your experience, do you see as many stay-at-home moms? Do you see moms going back full-time, part-time? Like, what are you seeing?
I see a combination of both, believe it or not. I see moms, like half of my caseload at the moment is stay-at-home moms, and the other half are working, high-functioning moms, corporate America, attorneys, all that, teachers. So I see a combination of both. And I will say both have the same concerns. They both moms, whether they work from home or they work out of the home, or they're stay-at-home moms. All of them have one thing in common. They feel overwhelmed. They feel alone. They feel like everything is on them. They feel like they don't have a village. It's not how it was back in the day when my parents were raising me. I had a great aunt. I had grandma. Everyone was closer. There's barriers now. There's technology. People are living longer. So there's variables. People live long distance, from family now. So it's much different, much harder. So I think it's very important that we have not just a therapist, but also like support groups or a mom group. I had to check in, even me as a provider. I had my best friend who helped me. I wanted her to hold me accountable because nursing was really important to me. And I nursed for 3 years for my second, and then now I'm still nursing 2.5 years. But I knew, like, she was like, no, you're going to get able to do this. You're going to be able to do this. And then before I knew it, I was still doing it. But, yeah.
So like you had that cheerleader to let you know you can do this every single day, because it's like, all right, like, and it's so great. Like even as a provider, we need that help too. Yes. And even like, okay, we hear it from our partners, great. But like sometimes it's like so much more sometimes when we hear it from friends or people who have been where we are to get that heard around us.
Yes, definitely. It's so important. So yeah, definitely as a provider, it was it was so important for me to have that village and that group. And my best friend, she nursed. I didn't do it my first. I have 3, so my second, I was like, I'm gonna do it. I wanted to do it, and I did it. So I'm proud of myself. That was what was important to some people. It's not nursing,
and that's okay.
Yes.
Thank you. So let's move on to question 2. This is a big one that I feel like it can pertain to like moms or even not moms, because it's something that I feel like as a society we struggle with. Okay. So question 2 is, how can I ditch that mom guilt associated with my self-care time?
So I like this question. So I thought about, I feel like the 2 questions are a little bit correlated too, because when I think about, when we come, let's say you're working, right, and you're coming from home, and some people, the first thing, let's say their partner's there first with the kids, whatever it is, or the baby. And the one thing I always stress to my clients is that when you get home, take time, at least half an hour, 15 to 30 minutes, put your shoes away, put everything down, go take a shower, try to decompress, relax. I'm like, what if I gotta wash the dishes? No, we're modeling that first and foremost for our children, right? If we can't do that for that ourselves, how can we expect our children as they get older to be able to do that, right? So if we're all, in the business of me, I'm in the business of being conscious of generational patterns and how how are we re-engaging in things that maybe we are not even aware of that our parents did. Maybe it was a norm that, mom always just, was always busy and kept herself busy and didn't take care of herself. So if we want to, try to break those generational patterns, let's be mindful and aware of how we are when we're entering the home, as an example, from work, or even just stepping away during a long week. So how can we pour? Another part of that is, how can we pour from an empty cup, right? I can't be my best self as a mom if I'm not doing the things to take care of myself. And self-care looks different from everyone. Me, I'm not just looking at bubble baths and watching the housewives,
Yeah.
right? It could be connecting with friends that you haven't connected with before. It could be journaling.
Hmm.
It could be, going to a yoga class that you haven't been able to catch up with. It could be taking a class that you've been really wanting to take and that's really important for you. Or therapy. So those are the things we need, look at. People just think, okay, just go to the spa or whatever. But so there's other ways to take care of yourself. So, when we're not taking care of ourselves as mothers or parent, caretaker, whatever, we may be more irritable,
Yep.
anxious, angry, and short tempered, short with the children, short with our partner. And then it trickles down and affects the mood of the household. So, I'm sure we all want a household that's peace, right? Calm.
Hmm.
So that's one of the biggest, two biggest parts to that, right? So I hope I answered that listener's question.
Yes, yes. No, that's perfect. And something I say to my clients who struggle with self care is, when we have more stress on our plate, how is our like original self care plan going to tackle that stress, right? So it's like, as the stress gets bigger, we have to make our self care bigger. And it's sometimes we don't need as much, sometimes we need way more. So,
Mhm.
of course, if, like, let's say you used to, let's say, not have a kid and now you do, of course you're going to have to engage in more self-care. It's just,
Yes, yes, yes. It's not going to be the same that when you were single. No, no, yeah, definitely. Or I mean,
yeah,
with a kid, yeah, or taking care of multiples, even that, or even if you're taking care of a family member who's sick in the household, you know.
yeah, yeah. And I love what you said about the modeling the behavior, right?
Yeah.
Because if, like, and I see this all the time because I work with a lot of young adults, when they think about like the family dynamic and what they always viewed, or how they always viewed their parent. And it's like, well, they were always working, they never relax. And then a lot of times they take on that same persona because it's what they know, right? Like, how do you not? And so we are the models for the people in our family. So if that's a motivation in itself, I mean, I think it's a really big one.
Yeah, yeah. And also too, like, weaved into that is boundaries, right? If we're able to model and practice healthy self-care, like, this is all you're setting a boundary for yourself by even doing that, saying, hey, this is my time. To your partners, Sundays from 12 to 2, every other week or every week, this is it. This is my time. Okay. All right. And negotiate with them too, maybe, that, when they need that time as well. For me, it's working out. I love spin. I know that you like spin.
Yes, I do like it a lot
love,
too.
love spin. I love spin. That's me. And then, I have like Fridays, I have set, that's my day, where I take care of myself as a therapist, because I'm pouring into people all week. But
Yes.
yeah, so I make sure that I designate time that is really important, really, really important, because goes back, you'll be more irritable, you're not
Hmm.
gonna be your best self. You're not. And then you're going to get then resentment comes in as well.
Totally, totally. And something that, like, I think about is, when people say that being a mom is your identity, right? Like, so it's like this weird narrative of like, okay, yes, it's like a new chapter in your life and it's a part of your identity. But I guess like when, or I guess, how do you avoid it becoming your whole life? Like where you almost lose yourself? Because I could imagine a lot of self-care needs to be brought in for that.
Yes, yeah, yeah. And also too, like, you know, I'm hearing you say is losing, essentially losing yourself. And that's scary for a mom, right? Because you carried this baby into the world or had this baby, whether you physically delivered them or not, you know. So one of the biggest things is making sure that those, whether it's those connections you had, the things that brought you joy, the things that were part of you, that we're not losing that. And also too, like, you know, your identity may, you know, shift as you become a mom. You may look at the world in a different lens as well as you have, you
Mm-hmm.
know.
Hi, my name is Gordon Gooding. I'm the founder and director of the Gooding Wellness Group here in Cold Spring Harbor, New York. We are a group of mental health providers that offer individual and family counseling here on Long Island. We believe the first step for caring for your mental health is to talk and to learn about it, which is what this podcast does such a great job of. If it has a name, someone else has been through it, and so can you. If you ever need a professional that cares about what you are facing, please feel free to reach out to us. Our counseling services are available throughout New York State through our teletherapy service, and we also offer in-person sessions in our beautiful offices here on Long Island, New York. You can reach us at goodingwellness.com or by calling 631-351-2940. Remember, there's nothing that you need to face alone. Until then, keep listening, be deliberate with your mental health, and keep it honest.
Like you know, I've seen a lot of, you know, some people who weren't religious at all. They're, you know, they become more religious or more spiritual after they have a kid, or their whole perspective may change. So I think the biggest thing to keep you grounded is to, you know, going back to what your values are, what is important to you, you know, in this world, right? What's important, you know, what is your purpose here? Your purpose is not just to be mom, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Some people, you know, not, I know not, mine's not, you know, I love being a mom. That's just one piece of who I am here on this earth, you know, and I strongly believe that when we're able to work through that, you know, whether it's individually or in therapy with with a therapist, you know, identify what is your purpose here, then, you know, it'll help you to feel grounded, you know, as a mom, a new mom, and to keep that in the forefront, in your decision making, whether who you hang with, what you decide to do in your life, you know, whether it's volunteer work. I definitely recommend like volunteering, doing things outside of just being mom, like, you know, giving yourself, you know, like whether it's volunteering for I've had moms volunteer for like a non-for-profit, you know,
Mm-hmm.
like Big Sister or something like that, to keep themselves busy around home, or something that, you know, really gives them, you know, passion, you know, outside of mom, you know, because when those kids get older, bye bye, you're left with a
Yes.
partner, you're back to who you. And then a lot of moms struggle with that I've seen moms who in their 60s, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, my kids are gone, I'm an empty nester, what do I do now? What does life look like with me and my partner, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So we, to avoid that, you know, definitely, you know, keeping yourself grounded, you know, re-engaging the things that make you happy, the parts of you that align with who you are, your values are really important, and continue to do that journey. So I love traveling too.
Nice.
You know, so that's, I feel like important to, you know, for me, you know, that's what gives me joy, and you know, that's one example I could give. So some people like to travel the world,
Mm-hmm.
you know, so yeah.
That is also helpful because we always hear about the empty nesters, right? And like how they don't, a lot of people don't know what to do after they retire, after the kids move out of the house. So it's almost like you're preparing from the get go. You're preparing, you're also implementing self care, and you're increasing your identity with all these other things. So you're doing so much good for yourself.
Yes, yes, yes. And
I have a question that just came in my head. If you, with this topic, what would you have told yourself as a new mom 3 kids ago, like that you wish you knew?
what would I would have told myself 3 years ago? I think. To I wish I would have had more supports in place before I got pregnant with the first. So I feel like, oh, just going to the OB, just go to my regular checkup. Yeah, everything's fine. And then next thing you know, I wind up in hospital bed rest in the middle of my.
Wow.
So, like, I feel like, being prepared and, I think not rushing. I could have took, I feel like, not rushing to think that, oh, the next thing is in your 20s is to get married and have a baby right away. You know what I mean? Like, give yourself
Yes.
space. Like, it's okay to not have the baby right after you get, like, it's okay. Like, and just give yourself grace. So I think like having a village, more of a village, not just like the resources, but like people around me when I had that were in New York, not my college buddies in Boston. I love you guys, or out of state, but people here on Long Island that were local that like rely on. I feel like really having that village outside of my immediate family, and then I feel like definitely those two aspects. Yeah.
So good. Oh my God. So important. I love that because it goes along with like, the pressure of the timeline, quote unquote. So I think so many people are going to get so much out of this. People who aren't even like thinking about kids right now, even, right? Or maybe don't even have a partner, and that's okay. Like, I think this is really great for anyone. Thank you so much. This is like great for the listeners and me. So Sowania, tell people where they can find you, follow you, your services, all of the good stuff.
Yes. Well, everyone could find me. Sowania Germain, LMHC.com is my website. You could call me. I'm text friendly, 631-743-6558. On IG, I'm the Mama Therapist, and on Facebook as well. I'm also going to be hosting an upcoming virtual support group. I'm New York licensed, so psychotherapist. So if you're in New York and you're needing a support group, the group is starting October 20th. So please, you could contact me if you're interested. I have a few slots open at the moment. And thank you so much again, Liana, for this opportunity. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. I'm going to be telling everyone about that group. I already know some people. That's great. Well, thanks guys for listening. Stay tuned for next week's episode because Sowania and I are going to be talking about Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, which we're so hyped about.
Yes.
Follow and submit your questions on Instagram at Let's Be Honest Pod. You can also email them to me at letsbehonest@goodingwellness.com. Follow me personally at Liana Ross, LMHC. And last but not least, if you're looking to begin therapy with any of our wonderful therapists, head to goodingwellness.com. See you next time.